The unraveling began in the quiet spaces, the extra seconds Evelyn lingered in the driveway after coming home, the faint citrus scent of a cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her scarves. For months, I told myself it was paranoia. 12 years of marriage had to account for something, didn't they? We weren't the couple who held hands in public or posted anniversary tributes online, but we built a life. A Tudor-style house in Ridgewood, a shared spreadsheet for bills, a golden retriever named Gus, who slept at the foot of our bed. Stability, I thought, was its own kind of love. Then came the Thursday she forgot her iPad on the kitchen counter. I'd never snooped before, privacy was a religion in our home, but the notification that flashed as I poured coffee froze me mid-pour. Daniel, can't wait to taste your dessert tonight. A joke, maybe. Evelyn hated baking, but when I opened the message, there it was. A photo of her wrists tied to a mahogany headboard with silk scarves I'd bought her in Milan. Her lips parted in a laugh I hadn't heard in years. The timestamp 9:02 p.m. while I'd been at a client dinner in the city. I became an archaeologist of my own demise. Security footage from our Nest cameras revealed weekly yoga sessions where she'd park 3 blocks from the studio and slip into a black Lexus with tinted windows. Bank statements showed charges for boutique hotels in Hudson Valley, always on nights I traveled. Her new obsession with French patisserie, macaron kits cluttering our pantry, butter stains on her recipe books suddenly made sense. Daniel Hartman, I learned, was a managing partner at a white shoe law firm, a man whose LinkedIn photo radiated the smug calm of someone who'd never been told no. He collected rare Bordeaux wines, chaired charity galas for pediatric hospitals, and fucked other men's wives in rooms with $200 thread count sheets. I catalogued every detail. The way Evelyn started wearing lace lingerie beneath her blazers, the GPS coordinates of their meetups pinned to my mind. The single strand of silver hair I found on her coat collar, a match to Daniel S. Temple in his firm S. Press photos. I didn't rage, I dissected. Late nights, I'd sit in my home office, Gus snoring at my feet, mapping their patterns. They favored coastal inns with private beaches, places where the sea could swallow secrets. Her lies grew bolder. Late deposition, she'd say, slipping out in a black dress too elegant for the office. Book club, she'd murmur, kissing my cheek with lips sticky from gloss I didn't recognize. I smiled, nodded, and quietly rerouted our savings into offshore accounts. The house deed, the cars, the joint credit lines, I stripped my name from them like peeling off dead skin. The truth, when fully grasped, is a weapon. Daniel's pristine reputation hid fissures. A DUI expunged through political connections, a brother serving time for wire fraud, a habit of snorting cocaine in bathroom stalls at charity galas. Evelyn, ever the perfectionist, left traces too. A burner phone tucked beneath her yoga mat, a Gmail draft folder filled with love letters she'd never send. I want to drown in you, one read. I memorized it. On the night of our 12th anniversary, Evelyn wore the emerald necklace I'd gifted her 5 years prior to a work dinner. I ordered takeout, watched her Lexus vanish into the rain, and methodically installed micro cameras in every room. The footage was cinematic. Her moans as Daniel pinned her against our sub-zero fridge, his hands gripping the same marble countertop where we'd shared pancakes every Sunday. I saved every frame, every timestamp. Sentimentality was dead. This was data. By the time she returned, smelling of bergamot and guilt, I'd already begun erasing myself. The dog's vet record switched to her name. My childhood photos boxed and shipped to a storage unit. She didn't notice. Why would she? To Evelyn, I was still the man who forgot to refill the Brita filter, the husband who preferred spreadsheets to surprises. The final piece came in a manila envelope from a private investigator. Photos of Daniel S.'s wife, a brittle socialite named Clara, boarding a flight to Zurich with her tennis instructor. They'd been discreet, but not enough. I tucked the evidence into a fireproof safe beneath the floorboards, alongside Evelyn's letters and the hotel receipts. Revenge, I realized, isn't a strike. It's a symphony. Every note had to be precise, every instrument tuned to ruin. When Evelyn texted working late again, I didn't reply. Instead, I booked a one-way ticket to Barbados and began drafting emails to the IRS, to the partners at Daniel's firm, to Clara's Instagram followers. Patience had made me a ghost in my own life. Now, it would make me a storm. Revenge, I learned, thrives in the mundane. I began with Daniel's weakness, the cocaine habit he hid beneath charitable donations. A discreet tip to the DEA, anonymized through layers of offshore servers, linked his license plate to a known dealer in Tribeca. Not enough for an arrest, but sufficient to tarnish. The next morning, his firm security team found white powder dusting his desk drawer during a random audit. Partners murmured, clients hesitated. I watched his LinkedIn endorsements bleed away like sand through an hourglass. Evelyn noticed nothing. She floated through our home, humming French love songs as she packed weekend bags for their rendezvous. I let her believe the lie was intact. Instead, I reshaped her digital footprint. A cloned Instagram account began reposting her cryptic food photos with darker captions. Secrets ferment better in darkness, I wrote under her oyster image, tagging Daniel's private account. His wife Clara, sharp-eyed and vengeful, followed the trail within hours. The true art, though, lay in financial corrosion. Daniel's offshore accounts, hidden behind shell companies in the Caymans, were a spiderweb I unraveled with forged signatures and algorithmic trades. A wire transfer of $500,000, seemingly from his firm, slipped into an anti-corruption NGO's coffers. By the time auditors noticed, the money had vanished into Bitcoin wallets even the FBI couldn't trace. Suspicion fell on him like a shroud. Evelyn's downfall required softer hands. I weaponized her vanity. A fake wellness brand offered her a collaboration promoting artisanal jams, a nod to her sudden culinary passion. She posed for photos in our kitchen, unaware the labels I'd designed contained a hidden ingredient, traces of a rare saffron strain linked to food poisoning outbreaks. The FDA warning came 3 weeks later, her DMs flooded with threats from customers. Her Instagram followers, once charmed by her curated life, now called her a fraud. I waited for the cracks to widen. Daniel, desperate to salvage his reputation, began liquidating assets, including the coastal inns where they'd met. I bought them anonymously through a proxy, then filled the guest logs with fake entries under their names. When Clara filed for divorce, her lawyers subpoenaed the records. Her judge saw patterns even a prenup couldn't erase. Evelyn's final mistake was sentimental. She kept a shoebox of mementos in her closet. Hotel keycards, a monogrammed cufflink, a pregnancy test from a month she'd claimed to have the flu. I photographed each item and leaked them to a gossip blogger specializing in anonymous marital dramas. The post went viral, her face blurred but recognizable to anyone who knew her wrists, her laugh, the emerald necklace she never took off. The night the story broke, she came home trembling. I sat in the dark, Gus's head heavy on my lap, watching her pace. She didn't ask if I'd seen the article. She didn't have to. When her phone buzzed, Daniel, no doubt, she silenced it and poured a glass of wine. I counted the gulps, 7, enough to drown hesitation. By dawn, I'd erased myself completely. The house, stripped of my fingerprints, stood as a museum of her guilt. Walls bare where my photos hung. Closets hollowed of my suits. Even Gus's collar now bore her number alone. She wandered rooms like a ghost, finally sensing the void where I'd been. The final strike was elegance itself. Years prior, Evelyn's father had gifted her shares in a failing textile empire. I'd quietly acquired its debt, then triggered a default. The bankruptcy notice arrived on her birthday. Her inheritance dissolved, her credit score imploded, and the emerald necklace, the last tether to our past, was repossessed. Daniel's ruin followed. The IRS, tipped to discrepancies in his charity's books, froze his assets. His brother, desperate for a reduced sentence, testified about the wire fraud scheme. Clara took the children and the remaining money, leaving him a shell in a $5,000 suit. I watched it all from Barbados, sipping rum on a balcony overlooking the sea. Revenge, I realized, isn't about pain. It's about erasure. By the time Evelyn realized I'd left, I was already a relic, a shadow, a man who turned his love into a scalpel and carved her out of the world. The ocean whispers in reverse here. Waves retreat from the shore, dragging secrets into the deep. From my villa's terrace, I watch storms gather on the horizon, neat, symmetrical spirals that dissolve before reaching land. A metaphor, perhaps, for the lives I'd dismantled. Evelyn and Daniel were hurricanes of their own making, but I'd become the atmosphere that starved them of air. Evelyn's voice first cracked through an email. "Please," she wrote. Subject line empty, body text trembling with misplaced hope. "Let's talk." She'd found the storage unit where I'd left her mementos. Love letters, photos, the silk scarves from Milan. I'd arranged them like museum exhibits, each tagged with GPS coordinates and timestamps of their betrayal. A curator of her guilt. She didn't mention Daniel. He'd become a ghost to her, too, indicted on tax evasion, disbarred, last seen boarding a Greyhound to Reno. I replied with a single attachment, audio files of their trysts edited into a symphony. The moans, the whispers, the clink of wine glasses against headboards. I set it to Satie's Gymnopédie #1, a piece we danced to at our wedding. Sent from an encrypted server, of course. Let her wonder if it was me or karma. Her unraveling was public. A TikTok video surfaced of her screaming at a barista, her once polished facade shattered by sleepless nights and Xanax. The comments dissected her. Karen vibes. Someone's off her meds. I'd planted the clip through a burner account, filming her during one of her errands to the cafe we'd frequented. The internet, ever ravenous, did the rest. Daniel's end was quieter, lonelier. A news brief noted his arrest for possession at a truck stop outside Bakersfield. The mugshot said everything. Hollow eyes, unshaven jaw, the Rolex I'd anonymously tipped police about still clinging to his wrist. His firm scrubbed him from their website, replaced his bio with a generic stock photo. A man erased. But true revenge lies in what remains unseen. The offshore accounts I'd siphoned into a trust for Clara's children. The anonymous donation to the pediatric hospital Daniel once championed, ensuring his name would forever be a footnote in their gratitude. The saffron-stained recipe book I mailed to Evelyn's mother, inscribed Bon Appetit in her daughter's handwriting. 6 months after the storm, a package arrived. Inside, the emerald necklace, its chain snapped. No note. I pictured her pawning it. The jeweler S-loop, revealing the hairline fracture I'd engineered years ago, a flaw only visible under pressure. She'd kept it, despite everything. Sentimentality, that most human of weaknesses. I threw it into the sea. The waves took it greedily, as they'd taken my rage, my fingerprints, my name. Last week, a realtor's listing popped into my inbox. Our Tudor house, foreclosed and gutted, priced as a fixer-upper. The photos showed sunlit rooms stripped of her curated decor, Gus's claw marks still scarring the hardwood. I closed the tab and ordered another drink. Rum this time. Darker. They say revenge leaves you hollow. They're wrong. It fills you with something colder, denser, a black hole where love once pulsed. I wear it like armor. At dusk, I walk the beach. The sand here is volcanic, black as a widow's silk. Footsteps vanish instantly here, as if the earth itself rejects memory. Sometimes I whisper their names to the wind, not out of malice, but to feel the syllables dissolve. Evelyn, Daniel, gone, like salt in rain. I've started writing again. Not spreadsheets or code, but fiction. Stories about men who become shadows, wives who mistake silence for surrender, lovers who forget that even hurricanes have eyes. I publish under a pseudonym, a name plucked from a tombstone in Ridgewood Cemetery. The royalties flow to an orphanage in Zurich, a place Clara's tennis instructor once mentioned in a leaked email. Irony, I've learned, is the purest form of poetry. Tonight, another storm brews offshore. I'll watch from the terrace, whiskey in hand, as it churns itself into nothing. There's peace in watching destruction from a distance. No chaos, no collateral damage, just the quiet certainty that some forces cannot be outrun. I check the weather app, 70 degrees, 0% chance of rain. Perfect.